Okay, our next lesson here is graphing contractionary policy. So we're going to show how that is demonstrated using graphs. Now again, the purpose of the contractionary fiscal policy is to decrease aggregate demand in order to reduce inflation. The problem the economy is experiencing, it is experiencing demand pull inflation, and this is caused by overutilizing our resources. And so the tools that are available for government, they can increase taxes, which would reduce consumption, or they can decrease government spending. And again, using the same graphs, an aggregate supply and demand graph and an aggregate expenditures graph, we can show the impact of a contractionary policy. Again, the aggregate expenditures graph uses the 45-degree line, and we have aggregate expenditures on this axis. We have real GDP and employment. On this axis, we plot our level of aggregate expenditures, and that's where it intersects the 45-degree line is our level of output. And so since we are experiencing demand pull inflation, we could be overutilizing our resources, so we could actually have less than, we could actually have greater than full unemployment. So an unemployment rate like what we had in the late 1990s of, let's say, 3.7% is obviously lower than the full employment rate or the natural rate of employment. So in this case, our actual level of employment is greater than full employment. So we would need to intersect this 45-degree line here. So our goal here is to reduce consumption by increasing taxes and reduce government spending by reducing government spending. Let me switch to a different color. Once we do that, it would shift our aggregate expenditures curve downwards. It would push it down, and we would reach that level of full employment, that desired level of full employment right here. So that is the goal of the contractionary policy. Now again, on the aggregate supply and demand curve, or graph, sorry, here's our short run aggregate supply, here's our aggregate demand. We have our level of output, our price level, and again, real GDP, and this is employment. The goal, again, long run, full employment is going to be to the left here. So our long run aggregate supply curve is right here. And so the current, our goal is right there. So we have a higher price level, which is the inflation, and we are overutilizing our resources, which is causing this inflation. And so we have an unemployment rate that is less than, or I guess we could describe it as greater than, the full employment rate. So anything below 4% would be in this range. So the goal of the contractionary policy is to, again, reduce aggregate demand. When we decrease aggregate demand, we shift it to the left here, and we reach our desired level of full employment right here. And so that is how we would graphically show the impact of a contractionary fiscal policy. Next, we'll go over the consequences of what an expansionary fiscal policy, which leads to deficits, and a contractionary policy leads to surpluses, and how you deal with those, how government deals with those deficits or surpluses, and what impact that has on uh, the desired policy.